Hello everyone and welcome back to Chills with Chas. We're going to continue reading stories out of the Haunted Heartland series. This one we're going to do is more Haunted Cemeteries and the Whole House Devil Baby. Alrighty. More Haunted Cemeteries. At least two other Chicago area cemeteries have occasioned particular events. A magic house occasionally appears in a shroud-like mist on the rutted trails leading to the abandoned Bachelor Grove Cemetery west of Crestwood in Rouboy Woods Forest Preserve. The house floats into view only rarely. When people have seen the place describe the same scene: a porch swaying gently on a large wood colonnaded front porch. The two-story house is vaguely Victorian, with a faint glow of light seeping through heavy curtained windows. No house was ever known to have been built on that property, and no one has ever reported entering the home. At least no one has ever left the house to report on its occupants. Bachelor Grove Cemetery also features a ghost light. Eyewitnesses say a blue orb often bounces around the cemetery on clear moonlit nights. Its origins are also unknown. Tombstones in the weed-choked cemetery have also been rearranged on occasion. However, a coven of witches reportedly meets in the cemetery, and the vandalizing of the grave markers have been attributed to them. I'm sorry, some of these words are hard. Holy Sepulchre Cemetery between 111th and 115th Street, west of Cicero Avenue, contains the grave of a young girl who is rapidly taking on religious prominence. Mary Alice Quinn died at the tender age of 14 in 1935. She was a quiet, pious child. Mary is buried beneath a tombstone marked Riley, and was believed to have had healing powers. Before her death, she reportedly cured several people of various afflictions. Pilgrims who believed in Mary Alice's abilities to heal have made their way to her grave in the hope for her spirit can mend their various illnesses. It is easy to find her resting place. The grave gives off a scent of roses, though there are no such flowers nearby. That's the end of that. Now we'll move on to the Whole House Devil Baby. Alright, let's see. The three elderly Italian women clattered amiably as they scurried along the sidewalk on their early spring morning in 1913. They keep I'm so sorry. They keep closely together, not daring to lose sight of one another, their pocketbooks clenched tightly against their ample bosoms. Should any one of the hundreds of strangers they passed that day have been asked to identify their mission, the answer must have been that the ladies were on their way to church, or the market, or perhaps to visit a favorite daughter-in-law. But that was far from the truth, as the women were from their native Sicily. The trio turned the final corner and paused. Their destination lay a few yards away. The women looked at one another. Should they continue? They silently questioned each other. Or quizzed each other, really, sorry. I like to make up words, apparently. Should they continue? They silently quizzed each other. Absently came the anonymous reply, or unanimous. I've never seen that word. I'm so sorry again. Unanimous reply. For it wasn't every day that they would be able to see a living devil baby at Chicago's famous Hull House. The Hull House receptionist greeted them, sat the women down, and as they gently as possible told them that there was no devil baby. The story was all gossip. The women insisted they knew what they were talking about, and proceeded to describe the particular toddler in great detail. Pointed ears, a very short tail, and cloven hooves. Furthermore, the child could speak. From the moment he was born, with his first breath he had cursed his father. The infant even grabbed the cigar out of his father's mouth and smoked it, and somehow the baby had acquired a red automobile in which to ride around Chicago. Fantastic as it sounds, Hull House was inundated with thousands of similar requests to see the devil baby. Before the episode was finally laid to rest 6 weeks later, letters, telephone calls, and personal visits by the curious fully taxed the resources of Hull House. A group of people from Milwaukee wrote offering to organize a delegation to visit Hull House for an opportunity to view the child. They even volunteered to pay whatever price might be asked for the privilege. Hull House has been a Chicago landmark since Jane Addams and Ellen Starr founded the settlement house for the city's large influx of immigrants in the late 1880s. Although Hull House moved to a new quarters in 1963, the original structure, built in 1856 as the home of Charles J. Hull, had been preserved as a memorial to Adams and Starr and the hundreds of volunteers who provided personal, educational, and recreational opportunities to generations of immigrants, poor people, and the homeless. It is not clear what prompted the origin of the devil baby legend in those first months of 1913. The reason for the birth of a baby with the features and demeanor of Satan seems to vary with the religion and ethnic background of each inquisitive visitor. Italian, Irish, and Jewish versions of a particular child have been documented, each bearing strong moral implications. Oh my goodness. The lesson seems to be, don't question the teachings of your religion or family. To stray from the fold was to invite horrible retribution. For example, the Irish version of the story reflects a strong Catholic influence. An Irish girl failed to confess to a priest that she had had an affair with a man before she married her husband. For this transgression, she was punished by being forced to give birth to the devil. The woman's shocked husband took the infant to Hull House. Despite the child's grotesque appearance, and several workers at Hull House decided to have him baptized. But when they unwrapped the infant's swaddling clothes, they were empty. A fiendish laughter erupted from the back of the church. The startled group turned to see the baby dancing away above the empty pews. The Italian account also emphasizes the dangers of inherent in ignoring church law. A young Italian girl committed the grievous sin of marrying atheists despite the protests of her family. A few months later, and pregnant with her first child, she hung a painting of the Virgin Mary on the bedroom wall. When her husband returned from work that night, he ripped the picture from its frame and burnt it. He shouted that he would rather have the devil himself in the house than a holy picture. His loose tongue was an invitation to Satan. The evil one implanted himself in the unborn child. At his birth, the couple's weird child ran and talked, skipping around the kitchen table, shaking his finger at his father. The woman's fearful husband took it immediately to Hull House and left it on the steps. And there were at least 5 Jewish versions of how the devil baby came to be born, including the youngest daughter of a very pious Jewish family supposedly married a Gentile without her parents' approval or knowledge. When her father heard of the girl's marriage, he exploded in a rage. "I would rather have the devil as a grandchild than a Gentile as a son-in-law." That indiscreet remark came to pass, for his daughter soon gave birth to the devil child. The horrible offspring was deposited at Hull House, since the young mother had been attending classes there. Second story for that one is 2 young women had gone to see the play Faust. I can't think I'm pronouncing that right. Shortly before one of them was due to give birth, a neighbor of one of the women reported that the pregnant woman was looked too intensely at the stage devil, therefore adversely affecting her offspring. Sure enough, her newborn infant was the spitting image of, oh my goodness, that is a really long name. Sorry. Mephistopheles? I don't know, probably some really weird name. Anyway, a visiting nurse assigned to look after the unwed mother took the demonic child to Hull House. Okay. Third Jewish story in this. Orthodox Jewish belief was at the center of another version of the devil baby tale, as it related to the traditions of Pinyin Hafbin. This held that when a first son is born, the child must be redeemed by its parents paying a fee to the rabbi 1 month following the boy's birth. Allegedly, a young Jewish mother had been asked if her offspring was indeed her first child. The woman said yes, hiding the fact that she had given birth out of wedlock some years earlier. For that sin she paid dearly. Her next child was Satan. Alrighty. What caused such a bizarre story to gain credence in the ethnic neighborhoods of Chicago? How could sensible people believe that a devil baby actually existed? Part of the answer was found in an appreciation of the lives of the immigrant matrons who feverishly believed and passed on the tales. Surrounded as they were by a foreign culture, these women clung tenaciously to the ways of the old world. Miracles, curses, and the supernatural were considered possible in the culture they brought with them to America. The existence of a devil baby, for example, seemed perfectly normal to those women whose family, home, and religion, tradition, and superstitions were the cornerstone of their lives. If a woman questioned the teachings of her elders, dared to marry outside her religion or station in life, or in any way disrupted the pattern of behavior expected of her, the penalties were harsh. Jane Addams, the founder of Hull House, understood what motivated these women. She wrote of the devil baby uproar. During the weeks of excitement, it was the old women who really seemed to have come into their own, and perhaps the most sorry. I have to fix my thing. Alright. And perhaps the most significant result of the incident was the reaction of the story upon them. It stirred their minds and memory as with a magic touch. It loosened their tongues and revealed the inner life and thoughts of those who are so often inarticulate. They were accustomed to sit at home and to hear the younger members of the family speak of affairs quite outside their own experience in a language they did not understand. To the hundreds who had made their way to Hull House, the pilgrimage may have been the one greatest adventure in their lives. They took no part in the life of the city, rarely venturing farther than their local churches or synagogues. They were sequestered in a way difficult for present generations to comprehend. Day after day, sometimes with their own child in tow, the women trudged up the steps to the Hull House, inquiring about the devil baby. They all had heard a version of its birth. One old woman from the city's poorhouse likewise had heard the tale. At night she lay awake under a thin woolen blanket, thinking but one thought: somehow she must get to Hull House to see this child. Although she was badly crippled and penniless, she knew a kindly bartender in a tavern across the road who could help her. One morning she hobbled to the salon and asked for a dime so that she could visit Hull House and see the mysterious child. In return, she promised to deliver a full description of its hideous features to the bartender. She got her dime, and the bartender and the streetcar conductor lifted her aboard the trolley. At Hull House, the woman nearly collapsed from exhaustion. She told the receptionist of her mission. She explained that her own grandmother had been able to see into the future. Furthermore, she herself had correctly predicted the death of several members of her own family. The old woman's eyes shone. If she could only see this child, she insisted, she would be able to narrate perfectly the circumstances surrounding its birth. The kindly workers at Hull House proposed telling her the truth for as long as possible. Postponed telling her the truth for as long as possible. The old woman seemed to be brought to a plane of joy she had possibly never before experienced. The thought that she may be able to provide insight onto the reasons for the devil baby's appearance seemed to give her reason to live. Tea and cakes were served while she rattled off her numerous reasons for wanting to see the child. At last they told her the truth. The poor soul seemed to shrivel, a destitute and forlorn old lady, living only through the graces of a city's charity. Who started the rumor of the devil baby? No one knows. Was there ever any basis for this story? Possibly not. Perhaps the child had been born with some horrible birth defects and taken to Hull House for care. If so, there is no record to indicate who the child was, or whoever became of him or her. Despite the lack of evidence, however, for a month and a half in the spring of 1913, a devil baby did exist at Hull House, if only in the futile imaginations of the old and superstitious and the lonely. Alright, that concludes this reading. I'll see you next time.